Webinars and meetings. They often get used interchangeably, and so do their software and tools, but they couldn't be more different from each other. I'm Caroline from WebinarGeek, and in this video I'll help you understand the difference between a webinar and a meeting, show you the pros and cons, and tell you exactly which tool is the right one for you. Let's start with webinars. Of course, my forte. Webinars have really found a popularity in the last couple of years. I remember when I first started working at WebinarGeek, I had to explain to people what webinars were. Now, when I tell someone I work at WebinarGeek, I get a response along the lines of, "Yeah, I just watched a webinar last week." But what exactly is a webinar? The word webinar stems from a combination of online or web-based and seminar. Webinar. In other words, a webinar is a tool that allows you to host an online event. Webinars can be used for nearly anything. For example, a university course, a yoga class, a product demo, or an online event. As you can see, a webinar isn't just for sales or event purposes. A webinar can be very interactive, even more interactive than a physical event. The interaction comes from interaction tools, such as polls, quizzes, and assessments. This makes webinars ideal for educational and HR purposes. A webinar is perfect for presenting for bigger groups. Participants cannot turn on their camera or microphone. But do not get it twisted, because that's the power of a webinar. It makes a webinar so much more personal. It feels like it's just a conversation between you and the viewer, even if you have over 1,000 viewers in your webinar. And let's be honest, the last thing you want is 1,000 viewers to turn on their microphone during your webinar. But what else can webinars do? Webinars also allow you to review statistics after the webinar has ended. Depending on the tool you're using, these statistics can give you many insights, such as who viewed the webinar, for how long, when did they drop out, where are they coming from, what messages did they send, what were the answers for the interactions, did they pass the assessment, and what were the answers on your evaluation form, and so much more insights. Apart from the statistics, some webinar tools also have the possibility to integrate your webinar software with your favorite tools. This way, you can automate your webinar workflow, for example, to add subscribers from your webinar to your CRM or email list. Now let's talk about the pros of webinar software. Webinars are for one-to-many. They can be very interactive. They include statistics. And usually, you can integrate your webinars with your favorite tools and software. There are many different webinar tools out there, each one different from the next. Some webinar tools are strictly webinar software, like WebinarGeek, while others are a hybrid of a meeting tool and a webinar tool. The best one for you obviously is the one that fits your needs the most. But your best bet is probably WebinarGeek. Yes, WebinarGeek, selling WebinarGeek, I know, but hear me out. Everything mentioned before, statistics, interactions, integrations, that's all WebinarGeek. But even more important, WebinarGeek is GDPR compliant, meaning processing your data and that of your viewers happens in a safe way. Now, if you want to host higher quality webinars, WebinarGeek also allows you to host webinars with RTMP. Keep in mind that WebinarGeek is strictly webinar software. If you're looking for a hybrid between a meeting tool and webinar software, you might want to look a little bit further. Okay, but what is a meeting tool then? At this point, most of us have attended an online meeting. And yes, we've all tried to get our point across while our microphone was muted once. An online meeting allows you to set up a room and invite different people to your meeting. Within the meeting, people can turn on and off their webcam, and they can use their microphone to speak. Most meeting tools allow participants to change these settings themselves. This makes a meeting tool extremely useful for hosting smaller meetings with a limited number of participants. A meeting tool is more than just sharing your webcam. For example, you can share your screen and share your presentation slides. Some meeting tools even have the possibility to view statistics after the meeting is over. So let's sum up the pros of an online meeting. They are especially great for one-to-few meetings, and your audience is visible and audible. Now you know what a meeting tool can do. The next question is, what's the best meeting tool for you? Here are some examples of common and popular meeting tools. All tools have their positive and negatives. For example, Microsoft Teams has many functionalities but is much harder to figure out, while Zoom and Google Meet are really easy to use. Most meeting tools allow you to create a free account. This seems ideal, but don't overlook the pricing options. Some tools can get very expensive very quickly depending on the amount of users you need. Another thing to keep in mind: if you use your meeting tool for customer-related meetings, your tool has to be GDPR-proof, since you're processing their data. For European countries, Zoom might not be your best option, and you're much better off using Microsoft Teams. It seems so obvious that webinar tools and meeting tools are getting mixed up. But, as we mentioned before in this video, they differ so very much from each other. It's therefore good to realize what exactly you are looking for before committing to a tool. Do you want to discuss subjects with a small group of participants that can use their webcam and microphones? Then you need a meeting tool. Do you want to host an online event for a bigger audience, from which you can review the statistics and integrate the tool with your favorite apps and software? Then you're looking for a webinar tool. And that is it. If you like this video and you want to learn more about webinars, how to host them, what gear to use, and what it is like to work at a tech startup, please subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click like on this video and hit that notification bell. And tell us, what tool are you currently using? Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.